Hey everyone, my name is Kari and I am with my brand new co host Katie, and we are here to bring you the Cool Water Show, the Real Housewives Universe recap for a silent podcast where we are anything but silent. Katie, how are you doing on this fine Wednesday evening?
I am wonderful. I am so excited to do this. It's like my dream just to talk about housewives all the time. So even if I get to talk about housewives even for like a couple of hours, that's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. So I'm great. I'm excited. So much to talk about. I'm
Dude,
I'm
there's
pumped.
been and I'm overwhelmed with the amount of things that we could talk about that we have to push off a major topic like Erica Jane to a next episode
Yes.
because Salt Lake City alone is a saga in itself.
I don't know that we've ever, as somebody who's watched the show live, like as it's happened, I haven't been one that like caught up. I don't know in Housewives history if we've ever been fed this much at one time ever. Like it just keeps coming. It just keeps coming and there's no sign of it stopping.
It was so overwhelming as someone who is like binging to catch up of just
Hmm.
like I watched I caught up with New York first and then Beverly Hills and then then Potomac and then Salt Lake City. So I kind of went from like New York just being New York. It
Yep.
seems like very lame and tame in comparison to like Salt
Which
Lake
is
City right
wild,
now.
right?
Right. Um up through and I messaged you saying like, "Oh my god, I'm caught up with Salt Lake City and like this is the worst episode for me to get caught up on because I want to see the next episode so bad." It
Yes.
was such like a privilege to be able to watch all of the season just like back to back to back with no commercials that now I have to wait a whole week like some peasant. I was so upset when I'm like, this is it. What do you mean, Amazon? Like, give me another one.
I know. I know. Well, I'm feeling I can't stop thinking about I feel like they're all one piece of a beautiful Salt Lake pie. The last week's episode and this week's episode, they just like kind of blend together for me in
Mm-hmm.
this masterpiece, and I just can't stop thinking about it. It's just like it's consuming so much of my mental capacity, and I'm just excited to say all the things about it because
I
it's just I've never seen anything like it before in my life.
I agree entirely. Before we like dive headfirst into this, so I know you said that you watch week by week. Gi-
Mhm.
Give our fans your fandom recap. How,
Yeah.
because from what I understand and know, you are, if in Survivor terms, a super fan.
I am a super fan. It's the one thing I'm a super fan of. I would consider, I don't like to call myself a super fan of a Survivor or Big Brother because there are way bigger super fans out there
Mm-hmm.
than me. But Housewives, I'm a super fan. I've been watching since the Real Housewives of the OC in like 2006 or 7 or whenever it premiered. I'm reading the Diamonds and Rose book that interviews all of the housewives and the producers. I've watched every season. The one I haven't gone too deep on is Miami, and like I've touched in and out of Dallas, but I know the players. The rest, I'm like front and back. So I just feel like I know these women. They've been such figures in my life for decades. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they're like my family and I love them. That's how I feel about them. They're my family and I love them.
I can't imagine what your family Thanksgiving is like if it's the Real Housewives.
Honestly, a dream come true. That was
A dream. I mean,
Mhm.
the drama, the politically incorrectness, the
Yep.
everything that would come out of that. There would be at least one or two more arrests. You'd probably have
Oh,
SWAT,
yeah,
FBI, Homeland Security showing up there too.
for
Uh,
sure. For sure.
I am more of a recent just deep dive into this stuff. So what happened was I had heard for years that Vanderpump Rules is a
Mm.
show that I would enjoy, and I was like, whatever. And then I finally watched it. I bought Hulu, Prime or whatever it's called, Hulu Plus. I was like, I gotta stop watching this with commercials. Like, I
Oh,
just
yeah.
need this to go. And I fell in love with Lisa Vanderpump, like many do. I know that she's
Yes.
your girl.
She's my girl.
So I started watching Real Housewives Beverly Hills because of her. And then after Beverly Hills ended, I was like, all right, let's do this. Like, I'm in. And so I have now watched all of Beverly Hills, all of New York, all of Orange County, Potomac, Salt Lake City. I just finished season 1 of Atlanta earlier today.
Amazing.
So I have the rest of Atlanta and New Jersey left. So and then the other, like the little shoot, like Miami and Dallas that are lesser in the eyes of the
Mhm.
universe, it seems,
Mhm.
that I will watch those as well. And I am one for one on the Peacock released episodes, not the Peacock
Same.
paid subscription
Same.
episodes of Ultimate Girls Trip, which is
Same.
what
I
our show
haven't,
is named after.
yes. I haven't cracked into the old wallet to give them the $5 for the month.
Dude,
So,
at this
we'll see
point,
how
with
it
like how
goes.
many streaming services I pay for, I might as well just have
I know.
cable.
Right. That's how
And
I feel too.
like my parents like leech off of me for all the subscription services, so I
Yeah.
can't even like I really don't use Netflix. I feel like I could get away with asking a friend for Netflix, but then my parents would be like, "Where's the Netflix? Why is it not working?" Blah blah blah. And I would
Yeah.
get the like, "We supported you for 18 years. You can't just pay for Netflix." And it's like, "Shut up, Karen." That's literally my mom's name, not
Oh,
a.
no.
So
Oh, poor Karen, your mom.
she didn't like realize what it meant until like April, because it was her 60th birthday and we planned a birthday party, and our group chat, my brother, my best friend, and my brother's girlfriend, was called Don't Be a Karen. And she like saw it, we still use the chat. So she
That's
saw it come up
amazing.
on like Trevor's phone and she's like, "What does that mean?" And so Trevor had to explain. But I digress. So
Well, shout out to Karen.
yes, she will actually, she watches Real Housewives. If I told her about this, she would probably listen. I don't know if she would figure
Oh.
out how to listen, but
Mhm.
I'll get her there eventually. So we'll give her a shout out when she might hear this.
Perfect.
All right. We had decided there's probably like three major topics for us to talk about this week. And then
Yep.
each week, instead of giving you like the step by step of the episode, because we feel like if you watch one episode, you've almost watched the episode prior to it within that episode, because they repeat so many things that we want to go over Jen Shaw and Salt Lake City just in general,
Oh, yeah.
the whole thing, a little bit Potomac, and then our first episode of Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. So that
Yep.
is your table of contents for the evening.
Yep. I'm
Now,
excited about all of them.
my question for you before we really get into Jen Shaw is, it's like adjacent to her. Do you think Housewives knew that like she was being watched? Because that was my immediate thought of like, are they do they know that they're going to get some quality storylines by hiring this woman and like knowing that she's in some trouble, but like not letting her know that they know? Like, or am I too like QAnon conspiracy theory here?
So I feel like my main knowledge comes from like the Erica Jane, Teresa Giudice arrests of the past. Teresa Giudice, obviously
Mm-hmm.
historical. Um, Erica Jane, more recent.
Who
Those
hasn't
I
been
feel like
with anything yet?
it's true, allegedly. Um, it feels like to me that these women that are on these shows are just so narcissistic and so
Mm-hmm.
like full of themselves that they don't think that anything is ever going to happen to them. So I think what I feel like my whole theory on Jen Shah is that she's just a fraud in general, like a fraudulent person. Like
Mm-hmm.
her house was rented last season. That was not her real house. And they kind of talked about that this season a little bit, that she moved into a new rental.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like she puts on this show of wealth that always felt a little bit inauthentic to me.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think that they necessarily knew, but I think they were like, something's off here and we got to keep an eye on her because she's going to be like good TV. But I don't think that they signed up for this. Like, I don't think that they knew when they cast her that she was just this much of a disaster.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because my thought when this was going, it got Erica Jane. Like, has there been an arrest in every series? You had Luann in New York.
Oh, that's right, Luann.
Was there any arrests in Atlanta? Because I'm only on season one. But like, are they purposely trying to get at least one criminal per series because it provides some storylines? This was what my
You know,
thoughts.
so there was not an arrest on Atlanta that I can think about, but prior to joining Atlanta as a friend, Marlo was arrested, which I don't think you've met Marlo yet, but
Not
she
yet.
just this season now is a full-time housewife. And let me say she's put in her dues. She's been a friend of for I don't even know how many, like at least 5 or 6 seasons she's been a friend of, and she delivers every season that she's on. So shout out to Marlo for finally getting her peach. But she was arrested prior to being featured on the show for, I believe, stabbing someone or threatening to
Oh,
stab someone. I don't know exactly which one it is, but it's had something to do with a sharp object.
okay.
And I think a woman. So I guess technically that counts, but that's pre Housewives. And then you're right, we did have Luann.
And then
I
Orange
don't
County.
I don't know that we had anybody from Orange. Oh, we did. We had Gina get arrested for a DWI or DUI, one of those. I
Oh,
don't know the
right.
difference.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if we've had anybody on Dallas. Yeah, I think we have more arrests in cities than non-arrests in
Yeah,
cities.
I think we definitely showed that for sure. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
my thought was like, I might be a little bit too conspiracy theorying here. And that did they know? Because if they've been watching her for a year, it really isn't. And a year is like a figurative term because that's what
Right.
they were kind of like throwing around. They're like, oh, if all of these different like authorities are here, then they've been watching her for months, maybe even over a
Right.
year, whatever. That's like, did they know? Like, does Bravo know? Did they know that this is going to bring in some quality storylines? So that's fun. But I definitely was questioning it
Mhm.
as I'm watching all this, and I think it helps in the fact that like I've watched everything so condensedly within the last
Right.
calendar year that it just seems like everybody's getting arrested. Where
Right.
this has
Right.
happened over time.
Right.
So first and foremost, where are you at on Jen Shaw?
Okay. I'm not a Jen Shaw fan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that she actually is whatever human equivalent of a monster is. I think that is Jen Shaw. I think
Mm-hmm.
they've shown it. I mean, I guess we haven't seen the footage of her harassing her assistant, but
Mm-hmm.
they've alluded to it on this season. And the footage is out there. You can hear the recording, and it's a very quick Google. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Last season, she was just out of her mind, just completely all over the place. Obviously, she has anger problems and
Mm-hmm.
she is just not a good person, and allegedly scamming the elderly is just such a terrible thing to like exploit a vulnerable population of people that
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I'll watch it, I'll enjoy it, but I'm completely out on Jen Shaw, and whatever happens to her, and I don't feel any sympathy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think something that I caught on to somewhat quickly was her lack of responsibility for her actions, that
Yes.
someone's like, you hurt me, and instead of being like, I'm sorry, she immediately is like, well, you did blah blah blah. And it's like, dude, you were like making derogatory comments about a 22 year old's sexuality,
Right.
he's still figuring his shit out, that
Right.
you're the adult and she's just not. And there's, like you said, everything lines up, but that very early on, even last season, I noticed that she did things like that I'm not big on that type of person.
Yeah.
If you're gonna run your mouth and like do things, and you better be ready to like own up to it when someone calls you on it. And she does the exact opposite. She deflects. That I've been out on her from the very beginning. So then
Yep.
with everything that's come out, it's just like, well, it only furthers my like non-fandom of her. So that's fine. Not like that's fine what she did, but just like you aren't changing my. It's not like an Erica for me, as you know.
Mhm.
I've always been like Erica, and this is more of a wrestle for me than this is just like, all right, Jen Shaw, you've sucked the whole time. This just adds on to it. This last episode, we get into
Whew.
like it's just I just was sitting there the whole time just thinking like, please don't let this episode end. Give me more. Um
Yes.
so I think like a great place to start is when they're at Heather's place or like business in
Yep.
the party bus, and she gets the call. What did you think of her being like, Sharif has internal bleeding, I gotta go?
So, not great to say that your husband has internal bleeding and might need surgery. I mean, don't put it out into the universe like that. There's got to be another
Family
excuse that you can use,
emergency.
family emergency, something, and I'm not saying implicate your son, but say, my son, whose name I don't remember at this moment. I know
Is it
one of them
Sharif
is
Jr.?
Sharif. One of them is Sharif, and then I know she has another son, but I guess Sharif Jr. is the younger one.
Mhm.
Say you have to go pick him up at school, or like something not as inflammatory as
Right.
like your husband, or not, maybe not inflammatory, but is not the right word, but something that can put that bad karma out into the
Yeah.
universe, that your husband has internal bleeding. So wasn't here for that. That's for sure. And I don't even know. I would love to know who was on the phone, because I don't
Right, we
know that
haven't
he
found that
was.
out.
Yeah, we haven't found that out. I hope that we do. Um, but I don't know that he's implicated in this, Sharif, her husband, because his name hasn't come up really in any
I
reports or
assumed
anything
it
like
was
that.
Stu.
I would assume it was Stu also. Um, it makes the most sense, and he probably would know, right?
Mhm. Yeah. And then I think the reactions after like she leaves and then the cops show up is just some of like the most ridiculous stuff I've seen on TV. It just straight up, like, period. You had such a variety of responses from the women in that vehicle. Like,
I
I'm
just like,
laughing because I, I think of Heather being like, we gotta call her. What? She's on the run. We need to give her a head start. Like, okay, Heather, ride or die. Like, if I
yeah,
commit a
get me a
crime, I
friend like
want.
Heather,
Yeah,
first of all.
it's like, do not get yourself involved in this
No,
mess.
no. But I mean, truly, we all need a friend like Heather who is ride or die enough where if
Hmm.
Homeland Security, the FBI, and the NYPD for some
And the
reason
SWAT
is,
team.
and the SWAT team is looking for you, Heather's like, you got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So, get everybody needs a Heather Gay in their lives.
Hmm.
I'm more of a Lisa Barlow, I think, in the sense of like, yeah, I don't think you should do that. Like,
Calling all
no.
6 of your lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have gone that far. I don't know why she, first of all, needs 6 lawyers and why she needed to call every single one of them, but I can understand. I'm the type of person, when drama's happening, I need to talk about it, and I
Hmm.
need to know everything right away. I'm impatient when it comes to
Hmm.
things like that. So if I feel like a lawyer is gonna know what's going on, like, well, I'll call my lawyers just to get, like, the tea of it all,
Hmm.
but not for legal advice. Like, I mean,
I also don't know if I would have done that on camera, just because it's like,
Mm,
why do you feel the need to call all 6 of them? Like, I I'm scratching my chin at you. I'm not
yeah.
saying you've done anything shady, but I'm not saying you haven't done anything shady either. That was a
Well,
little sketch to me.
I agree, and I also would really love to know how much all of these women actually knew, because it feels like they all knew something. We
Mhm.
just don't know what extent. Like, obviously, Heather has come out and said, like, I knew that her business was unsavory, but I didn't know it was illegal. So they knew that, like, whatever she did was
Mhm.
strange. Whitney on the episode was saying she thought she had a sugar daddy because her lifestyle didn't make sense. So they like knew something was up.
Mhm.
But I think Lisa and Meredith obviously knew more than the rest of them, it seems
Right.
like.
Um, Whitney, it might be like a private investigator in her spare time or something, where she's like, "Oh, this is actually how all of this happens," and just laid it out like without pulling out her phone to be like, "Hold on, let me Google this," because maybe we could have gotten there with a solid 3 to 5 minute Google and some
Mhm.
reading, but Whitney just was like, "Call on me, teacher. I know the answer to this one. This is exactly how she scams these people out of money. Let me give you the play by play." Like, how did she know all of that?
And to speak with such authority on it all.
Mhm.
Like, this is what lead generation is. This is how you buy demographical data. This is, and it's just like, how do you know
I
this?
learned stuff from Whitney during
Same.
that. I was like,
Same.
"Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Thank
What I
you. Keep
really
talking, Whitney."
What I saw in my mind is a future where we have Whitney on like a Celebrity Big Brother and she's running the show. That's what I saw. And I never put the two and two together, but the way she was like, Lisa's being suspicious right now and was whispering and like
Mhm.
knew and was so smart and putting all the pieces together. I was like, well, let's get her on a competition strategic reality show and see how she does. That's kind of like where my mind went with
Can
her.
we start that Twitter movement?
I
There
would
is
love
that
to.
whole like list running out in Twitter right now of like the supposed Celebrity Big Brother list. Maybe she could be a
Mhm.
late ad. Maybe she's an
Yeah.
alternate. I mean, weren't there like great alternates this year? Wasn't Claire an alternate? And then like,
Yes.
so maybe Whitney, we're rooting for you.
Let's get Julie Chen Moonves on the phone.
Oh, the last person I want to talk to is her, all right, and her lack of support for women, a sexual assault.
Yes, it's
that's
true.
like one of the biggest reasons I just can't get myself into that show because I cannot bring to support her. But I'm not going to go on that tirade tonight.
Yeah. That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's that. You have to subscribe to my Patreon for that one. It doesn't exist yet, but when it does, that'll be the first thing that I go off about. So my other person I want to bring up is Jenny in all this, where she's like, can we just go on vacation? Like, we can't change anything.
Yeah.
Can we just, we could have like been halfway there if we just left already. You guys would stop trying to figure out something that you won't be able to figure out. So like, can we go?
Can
she
we just go?
Straight up was like, TikTok ladies.
Well, I was thinking like, first of all, Jenny was an entire mood. She just like immediately went and ate Jen's snacks out of the bag. And everyone's like, can we like what did Heather say? Like, something about I don't know, something about the grape, whatever. But she's like, let it, whatever, like give it a minute before you go through her snacks. Which I thought, you know what? Eat her snacks. She's not coming back. Those are perfectly good snacks. Eat those snacks. And then just like her sitting there while everybody's crying and she's just like taking a swig of whatever's in her water bottle. I don't feel like that was water or coffee. Maybe it was coffee with a little something in it for the ride. But she was just an entire mood the entire time. And like she doesn't really know Jen that well. She's new to this group. So everybody's sitting there crying and thinking about Stu and Jen's family. She's just vibing in this huge van, bus. I don't know what it was, but
whatever transport you would call that. I thought that the crying was a little over the top for me. And I don't know if it's because I'm not an emotional person, but I can understand like feeling bad for her kids, even her husband. But at the end of the day, like she's an adult that made choices that knowing that they were illegal choices, that if they got caught, like puts her family in this situation. So it's just very hard for me to like, I don't know how it becomes that much of a waterworks where it just seemed like they weren't placing as much blame on her as they should have. And given it was like in the moment and that's their friend. And I think sometimes it's harder to believe that like someone and who has spent time with your family and you've spent time with their family and everything, like could was like, all right, the tears are a bit much here, guys.
Yeah. It almost felt like they remembered that they were on a show and they were like, oh, she might watch this or something, and they had to like turn it on. But that's what it felt like to me. I get it. Maybe it all just like hit them. I also feel like Lisa did her best to like squeeze a tear out, and maybe we saw her too, but it really was Heather putting on. Heather has this relationship with Jen that I don't understand. Jen treats her like total garbage, and she is truly such a ride or die for her and crying over this and is still out there saying like, I support her through everything she's going through. I don't know the hold that Jen has on Heather.
Right.
If she frees herself from it because she's not worth it, Heather. Heather, you're too good. You're too good. You don't need this.
You could ride or die for anybody else. It would be fine. Like
ride or die.
You've shown your level of friendship and what you're capable of just in that scene alone. But you don't need to like give that unwavering loyalty to someone who would never return that to you.
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Love yourself more than that, Heather.
Missing from the bus when all this happened is Meredith, because Meredith is already in Vale. Now, I have to give a little side thing. I mix up Meredith and Lisa all the time. The fact that I didn't just get that wrong, I was very proud of me, and I'm going to give myself a pat on the back.
You deserve one.
Like, I know who each is, and I know each of their, like, storylines, but at the same time, to me, I don't know why I can't distinguish them from each other, like, name-wise. I will mix them up, like, an elderly person. Like, my grandma used to always, like, rattle off, like, 4 of the grand she got one that she was actually trying to talk to, like Sean, Todd, Trevor, Kari. It's like, which one? Like, that's how I feel in my brain with those two. So anyway, when I eventually mix them up, you have your forewarning on that. Yeah. When you're like, no, Kari, that's Lisa, I'll be like, you're right. You're absolutely correct. So Meredith is just like chilling in the tub. with her bubble beard.
Her bubble. Well, first it's like she gets that FaceTime from Lisa,
Mhm.
and she's like, historically, Meredith doesn't give us a lot of emotion, and this is the most joy I've ever seen. Even though it wasn't like obvious joy, you could tell she was just radiating joy from this call. Like
Mhm.
she's like, smooches, the house is amazing. See you guys soon. And it's like, wait a second, did you not hear what she just told you over the phone? Someone who is in your friend group, we won't call her a friend because they've had their issues,
Mhm.
just got hunted down by Homeland Security and the FBI and a SWAT team and the NYPD, and you're talking about how great the house is and like smooches and didn't even blink an eye about it. And then just took the longest bath of all time. Like, I need to know how long that bath was.
It could have been 30 minutes and it could have been 3 hours. It could be
Yeah.
longer than 3 hours. I would believe any of those times. No
Me
question.
too. And the episode was broken down into timestamps. It was all filmed over what, like an 8-hour period, maybe a little
Yeah.
shorter, like a 6 hour. So, which is incredible, incredible filmmaking. Give these awards to these editors and these producers for doing this. But there were timestamps on the screen and like location stamps.
Mhm.
One thing we didn't get was like when Mary got there, how long was it until the other women got there? Because Meredith was still in the bath the whole
Mhm.
time. So I need to
Yeah.
know that time interval. I just need to know.
Also,
Doesn't seem
like,
pleasant to sit in your own filth for that long and get all pruny. I don't know,
the pruny
personally.
part is what gets me
Yeah.
because, like, maybe she rinsed off in the shower beforehand and is, like,
True, true.
clean, maybe, I don't know. But, um, just at some point, like, doesn't your skin become uncomfortable? Like,
Right.
anyway, so, yeah, that was a very long bath,
Mhm.
and I just love that she was, like, perfectly covered up, also covered the chin because, you don't need your chin showing.
That chin, that bubble beard on her chin, it's like that is gonna be a vision in my mind forever. Forever. I'm never gonna not see it.
If she had, like, the right personality, that's what you make your Instagram picture, like, your profile
Yep.
picture,
Oh, yeah.
because that's just funny, but
Yes.
I don't think she does that. So,
No, I don't
anyway,
think so.
um, yeah, she was just, like, so nonchalant about a lot of it when she was talking to Mary, just like, "Yeah, like, I can't say I'm surprised," and it's like,
Nope.
"That's it?" Like, there was, like, 4 different federal authorities in the parking lot of your friend's business with guns the size of, like, hunting dogs, and
Yep.
you're just like, I I wouldn't have bet against that happening."
Mhm. And there's rumors out there that she, and I think she jokes about it, is that she's the one that tipped off the authorities
I would
that
love
they
if that
would
was
be at.
true.
Me too. Like, I'm rooting for it. I was like,
Same.
"No, Meredith didn't," but now I'm like, "Maybe she did," because she no didn't blink an eye, wasn't surprised, seemed like she was like, "Yep, mhm. Anyway, I'm going to the bath."
Yeah, because there was some stuff about, like, who tipped them off
Mhm.
that she was here, but then they said later in the episode, like, they had her phone pinged and
Right.
she was arrested on the side of the road, so I don't necessarily think that anyone was tipped off in that instance, or that anyone did any tipping, I guess, if she had her phone pinged because they're following that the whole time.
Right. Right.
But I do hope that somehow Meredith did, just
Uh,
because that would
Me
be
too.
phenomenal television.
Truly, it truly would be. And I think
What
she'd
if
own it. I think she'd be like, "Yeah, I did."
what if it was like Brooks?
Well, it could be. It could be the 2 of
I
them together in
that
cahoots.
would
I wouldn't be surprised.
if Meredith's just like, "Brooks, you know what? She has been saying some shitty things about you, and I have the perfect way of getting her
Yeah.
back.
Mhm.
Here at your leisure, this phone number, contact these people and tell
Yep.
them where she's gonna be, and this is what she's been doing." And it's like, "Okay, mom, thank you. Also, I'm
Yeah.
gonna make another
Thanks, mom.
tracksuit for next fashion show."
Yep. Mhm. Mhm.
I would I would really appreciate that, but that's probably fan fiction that I'm writing right
I'm
now.
here for the fan fiction. I'm
Okay,
here for
cool.
it. Yeah.
Um, Everybody gets to the house and that sit down at the table, it just made me think of, like, when you have the wild nights out and, like, everyone except for maybe one person gets blackout, and even that non-blackout was, like, still pretty drunk, and
Yeah.
the next morning you're trying to, like, piece together what happened and you're having the rehash session. That was what that reminded me of.
Yes. Yeah, I can totally see that. I can totally see that.
What came out of that for you that you were like, "Okay,
Oh my
Jen
gosh.
shot, like, we tell me more." Because
So
I feel like there were so
much.
many things. There were so many.
So much. So first, the clutch that was stolen from Meredith's
Mhm.
store. Um, so I guess the long and short of it is that Meredith has a store that sells like jewelry and I guess accessories in Salt Lake City. S- Jen was texting Meredith furiously 8 times to open the store and said she was banging on the door or something like
Mhm.
that to reopen the store. So her manager opened the store and one of the assistants stole a clutch. And I would like to know how much this clutch costs because, like, it seems weird. Why are you going to steal? Maybe it was an accident. It just seems weird. But then, whatever, they confronted Jen about it. The assistant brought it back the next day and they had the footage. They had the security camera
Mhm.
footage and it was just like everything. I was like, oh my God, like I was like, okay, whatever, this story, who cares? And then we saw the footage and I was like, she gave them the security footage. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't believe it. And then there's also the fact that Heather got Jen an Uber and she got out on the side of the road half a mile.
Right.
Like, what? I just need to know everything. I need to know more. Give me everything. I need to know more. And it felt like Lisa knew something and she wasn't saying it. So that's why I'm
Mhm.
just like, you ladies got to spill it. Obviously, you're in on something. You know what's going. There's something not right about Jen. So give it to us. We
Yeah,
need to
like at
know.
this point, why are you holding back on it? Just
Right.
just tell us all.
Right.
Um oh shoot, what was I gonna say? There was something that I was gonna say. Oh, did you see like stuff online that the assistant like put up stuff on his Instagram story
Hmm.
being like that he didn't steal it
Right.
and brought it back and then like accused Meredith of being homophobic, which is why um
Oh, I
she
didn't see
like
that part.
yeah, and so like Reddit was like, listen, I could have potentially believed you up until you like were calling her homophobic because
Yeah.
like she's the least of them
Right.
to potentially be that way. And it just seems like you're taking Jen Shah's strategy of deny everything. Um, so yeah, he was out on Instagram just like defending himself.
Mm.
And I guess he used to work at Heather's business and then she fired him because her policy is you can't accept tips and he is accepting tips. She found out, fired him. And I think it was Jen Shah that told Heather that he was accepting tips and so she felt bad for ratting him out so then hired him.
Oh
I
my
read all that on
God.
Reddit.
This is all brand new information to me.
I feel smart for telling you something about this show that you don't know. This is a prestigious honor for me right now.
I'm just like the web just keeps getting
hmm
spun, but more and more. I don't even know what to say about that. So Jen got this man fired, gave him a job. He stole a clutch, brought it back, and she still didn't fire him. Like, fire the guy, okay? Obviously,
Yeah.
he's not like not the best person to have on your staff.
Well, I guess he's from Brazil, and so his point was
Mm,
like, I was brought up not to do dumb things because like I don't want to be deported, and so like all this is it like it it's false. I wouldn't do this. And he said that like Jen kind of took some sympathy or empathy as
okay.
so I think like there's a part of that that mixes into it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know, but either way, like you said, the web just keeps interweaving more and more and I just need more answers. The more information I need, I need more answers because I don't know if it's
Yes.
providing me like I feel like that meme with the dude with like all the stuff
Yes.
going on in the
Yep. Yep.
background. Like I'm
Hmm.
gonna turn my wall into one of those whiteboards. Someone who I think is like particularly quiet through all this, and we had talked earlier that we're gonna have to get into this more is Mary.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
I mean, like we have heard that she runs quite the church over there that like people
Hmm.
think she is God that go to that
Yep.
church. There was the guy that they showed the conversation with Lisa
Was his name
with
Cameron?
Meredith. Was
It
his
was
name?
at Lisa's son's event, but he was speaking to Meredith.
See, this is where I would mix the two of them
Yeah.
up. Um, where like within 13 seconds he's like, yeah, she's the absolute worst. Like he did not hold back at all.
Right. But like also Whitney knows of this guy as well and knows the
hmm
story. So I'm really hoping they give us more of this next week. I think I put this on Twitter, but I when I watched the preview for next week, I think I gasped audibly at least 6 times. Like, I just feel like they gave us even so much in the preview where I'm like, it's just like, it just feels like it's going to keep growing and growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, it's not, it doesn't feel like we're hitting the brakes anytime soon with anything that's
No,
going on. Plus,
no.
the Mary story is going to like fully get baked, it feels like.
Yeah,
Where we've only gotten like little breadcrumbs right now.
I mean, this could be a great season to be a good person for the non-Jens and Marys of the season.
Yeah.
Like, you guys can be really seen as heroes here if
Oh,
you
yeah.
just like keep it on the straight and narrow.
Yep.
But I do think we're getting some like crazy storylines coming up. But yeah, she was like
Yes.
kind of quiet through most of the Jen talk, which is interesting because like they had their issues last year, but you
Mhm.
also wonder like, well, I'm not gonna run my mouth because
Right.
I'm running like this whole thing behind me that I just don't need to be brought up as like in retaliation because clearly people at that dinner know that shit's shady
Yeah.
over there too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that was a smart move on her part. I also do want to say that she has her step grandfather, who is also her husband's name in her phone as dad. So there's that, which is just like a whole new layer of bizarre. And for the anybody listening that doesn't know, she is married to her step grandfather, her grandmother's ex-husband. Um,
They've really backed off that component of their
yeah.
relationship this season.
Hmm.
She's someone that during the first season, I was like, she doesn't need to come back next season. I don't
No, but
need
I'm
more of her. But now,
thrilled. I'm
which
thrilled she's
also,
here.
again, makes me think like she didn't provide too much because she like separated herself so much because she didn't want to be around Jen last
Hmm.
season. Like, does Bravo know that she's running whatever Jesus facility she's got going on right now? Like, what does Bravo, how much of the shenanigans does Bravo know in terms of who they're getting and who they're keeping around? Because otherwise, like, for someone who is so willing to just stay away from the group for the majority of last season, it was like, why are you bringing her back if she doesn't want to
Right.
interact with people? But now
Right.
it makes some sense.
Yeah, and I do think she had a good maybe performance isn't the right word, but like a good showing at the reunion last season, where I felt
Mhm.
like that was the most that she gave us in season 1. So they probably, I mean, aside from all the Jen stuff, and I definitely think they knew about the church stuff because that was out there, like on
Mhm.
Reddit when they released the women, it was out there. People were talking about it. So I think they knew that they had a gold mine. They just needed to kind of like squeeze it out of her a little bit, and it feels like
Yeah.
she's way more willing to play ball this season. And she's I don't even know what words I can use to describe her, but she gives me joy in a way that I never thought possible just
Mhm.
because of the way that she acts on the television screen. Like it's nothing I can't find the words to explain it.
I like I definitely felt bad for Whitney in the last episode
Oh,
when
yes.
um Mary was just like going off on her so unnecessarily. And Whitney was
So
like,
unnecessarily.
I was the one person who defended you, and this is how you're going to treat me because I didn't answer. Because at first, this whole like, you didn't call me back thing made it seem like she got 4 or 5 missed FaceTimes and then just didn't call back. I
Yeah.
can understand being annoyed by that. I get annoyed when I like text someone and then I see that they didn't text me back and I say that they tweeted or something or like post on
Oh,
Instagram stories.
yeah.
Like, bitch, you've been on your phone. Like, answer me. I'm not one to just like have random conversation. Just answer me. So like I understand that frustration. However, we learned that Whitney did call her back. It was just 2 hours later.
Right.
And so
Right.
for Mary to get so mad about that over 2 hours of like I can't. I just was like this bitch is crazy.
Oh
She
my
she
god.
thinks she's God. She thinks that you need to when she calls you answer. And
Yes,
if you
I
don't, she smites you by trying to make you dress like a slutty mafia member.
Well, that's the most amazing part of it all, and obviously we're talking about this week, but last week I do feel like we need to say that there was a party at that,
Was that 2
like
weeks ago?
that was 2 weeks ago, that in the
Wow.
2-hour episode, um,
Oh,
and
maybe that's why I didn't realize it. As I said, I've watched everything all together.
right. Mary, hosted a cooking class and told everyone to come dressed up with, like, Italian streetwear, but specifically told Whitney to come dressed as, like, a mafia a slutty mafia person? I
Yeah,
don't like
like the
to say
picture
slutty, but
she's
it's like like a slutty Halloween costume.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was very risque, very not Salt Lake
quite,
City.
quite, quite.
So yeah, I didn't realize that wasn't last week. It all blends together, but it makes sense because this week started with the like them being back at the van where everything went down. So, but I
Yeah.
still think it's worth noting that like we're beginning to see the very much like complex of Mary, and um there's gonna be a downfall, and it's gonna be glorious.
Yes. Yes. And I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
One last thing that I forgot to bring up about the whole Jen thing at the table when they were like, yeah, and she's flagged by Louis Vuitton for always paying cash. Was it Lisa who was like, I would rather be detained by the feds than be
And
red
yep,
flagged by
flagged at
Louis
Louis Vuitton.
Vuitton?
I didn't know that that was a thing that could happen.
I think that there's a lot of stuff that businesses do that they're very good at keeping under wraps so that they don't have to like change the way that they monitor things. I have a friend who used to work for Discover but now works for Facebook, and like because he had to be so secretive because he worked in the money laundering department, not like uh catching it, not doing it.
Not doing
Obviously, like
it.
I would have him he just like couldn't say so much stuff. Um and like I had him in my phone as Shiv CIA because I was convinced he worked for the CIA and didn't actually work because of just like how secretive he had to be about things. That I think that like a lot of those things kind of kept under wraps so that they don't have to be like, all right, well now this is how we catch people is out on Reddit, so don't do this, instead do this or
Right.
whatever. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things like that, but I guess it makes sense because if you have like if Louis Vuitton is expensive and you're able to just like walk in with bands on bands of cash like
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
every time too.
It's a problem I'll never experience.
Yeah, this
I'll just
is
say that.
a problem out of my tax
Yeah.
bracket
Yes,
and
absolutely.
even my general interest of
Oh yeah.
brands anyway, but I did think that was funny when she was just like, yeah,
Yeah.
feds arrest me if I can't shop at Louis Vuitton. I don't want to shop anywhere at all. Just put me
Yep.
in jail.
Yep. Yep.
um is there anything else that you want to mention about Salt Lake City?
The only thing I want to say is that I didn't love about this episode is that I didn't think we needed security like ring doorbell footage of Jen's son and her nephew, who are two very young black men being
Mhm.
escorted out of the house by a huge swath of police officers with their hands up. Like we don't need that, especially with like the culture in this country right now. Like
Mhm.
we didn't need to see that. That should have been left on the editing floor. Like give those kids their privacy. They are not involved in this. That shouldn't have been those kids. Like people in their school is going to see it. Like that
Yeah.
I didn't like, and I thought that was very tactless that Bravo included that in the episode. Like, I get that it adds to the story that they're there, but like, cut the part out with her kids and her nephew on the
Yeah.
screen.
That was the first thing I had on my list and somehow managed to skip over it.
Yeah,
Yes, I 100% agree, and like uh not to like put too much, or basically let's put it this way. My family experienced something where the police had to come to our house, and just like the way it was, I wasn't there personally, but the rest of my family was, and just like how demeaning it was to
yeah,
them that and we lived in like, or they still live, but lived in like a small suburban, like somewhat conservative, middle class town where like there's one high school, everyone knows everyone's shit. Like
mhm,
there's the town newspaper, and everyone's first thing they do is open up to the police blotter. Like
yeah,
I'm guilty of it too. So like I can't imagine if that was to be on TV and like broadcasted to a national audience.
yeah,
And like I wasn't even there for that happening with my family. So watching that I was just like, this is I get that you're trying to show how dramatic this is, and that like her son had to walk out with his hands up above his head being like, what is going on? But
yeah,
you can still have the impact and severity of what's happening here
yep.
um be the same without showing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And they had the part where the producer was outside talking to the Homeland Security. Like, we know they're at the house. We saw that part of it. We don't need to see the doorbell footage. Like, these are two young men, like, that are not involved from what we know. And I'm sure that they're not.
Yeah.
This has to be hard for them in general. we don't need to see that on top of it. Like that kind of like made me feel like a little just like gross to watch. I was just like, ugh, I don't, from what was like a high of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is still
Yeah.
happening. Then to like flash that, I was like, oh, I don't like this. Like this took a turn. I mean, it turned back, but that part still like sticks out to me. And I don't love that they did that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree 100% with what you're saying. And like for me, and I didn't like register that happened until I was on Reddit afterwards, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that is fucked up. Like why
Yeah.
did they do that?"
So fucked
Like
up.
I don't know if I just like didn't even notice that the kid was on there or whatever, but it was just like, "Oh, why?" Like I think I was more caught by the off guard by the fact that who's giving their ring camera footage to this show, but that also kind of goes with the whole rental thing that
Yeah.
because
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
yeah,
That it
it
could be
wasn't
this.
Jen who did it. They probably
Right.
contacted the because I had heard that was like an Airbnb. It wasn't even like
Yeah.
straight
Something like
up.
that.
Yeah, so I'm sure that Bravo was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
can we get that? And we will repay you in a very nice fashion." Because why would Jen Shaw and her family give
Right.
that up otherwise?
I also heard somewhere, I don't know where, that you can subpoena, which I doubt that Bravo did this, but like you can request that as like part of like public domain or something. I mean, I don't know terms, but so
Hmm.
it's like you can get ring footage somewhat easily,
Hmm.
maybe if you have a reason to have it. I doubt that putting it on a TV show
Right.
is a
I'm
good
sure
reason, but
that
who knows?
um like police and authorities can, because I
Right.
mean it's such an extra way in terms of like catching people doing things, but I
Hmm.
don't know if Bravo can. I'm sure they just were like, "Yo,
Who
here's some
knows?
money, swing
Right.
that this way."
Right. Right.
But yes, I definitely agree with you. I'm excited for next week. I want to see more of this.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
All right. Our next show, which is coming to an end next week, I believe. I think we're only having a 3-part reunion,
I think we have a
right?
four-parter.
Oh my God. But this one was
I
so boring.
know.
We didn't
I
even
know.
need the second part.
No, we didn't.
Like literally the description on Amazon, because I've I've spoiled myself with buying Hulu Plus with the no
Mhm.
commercials and binging everything up to it, that watching on the Bravo app is torture
Oh, yeah.
because it doesn't like save where I'm at. And then you have to, they show like the one, like the stuff you haven't seen or whatever episode in between each normal episode. So you have to fast
Oh.
forward through that. And like, you know what? I am a grown woman with disposable income because I have no child. I'm going to spend some
Yeah.
extra money
Treat
on
yourself.
on this. So instead, I like buy the season on Amazon Prime and watch it without commercials there. But like Amazon's description of it was just like Giselle gets emotional when Karen talks about like how much she cares about her kids. Like that was it. That was the
Yep.
sentence description. It's like,
That's all that happened. Honestly, I rewatched it today because I was like, I can't think of any points that I want. And I don't know if we said, but we've moved on to the Potomac reunion.
mhm.
Um, and I love Potomac. I think it's probably my favorite
Yeah.
city. I have a lot of love for New Jersey, just always, it's just such a good, just the history of it. But I think like the one that's the most fun to watch that makes me truly laugh out loud is Potomac.
Hmm.
And I couldn't think of anything to talk about because I was like, what even happened? And then I was like, I must have missed something or I was multitasking. And I rewatched it again tonight and I was like, nothing. I don't really have anything.
No.
Filler.
So
This is a filler episode for sure.
yeah, I definitely agree with you. Um, I thought like the only funny part was Andy like really pushing buttons about the candles. And like
Yes.
I did laugh at that because uh I know that he has that in them, but he tends to like go for real drama and not just like, oh, she's got the 5 wick, she's got
Yeah.
the 7
Yeah.
wick. Like I thought that was funny, but like otherwise just this wasn't I especially for Potomac, because
Yes.
Potomac is like nonstop jabs, drama, back and forth, that this was just like, okay, cool. So they have professionally made the distinction of I will insult your vagina, I will insult the university that you went to, I will insult the man that you who fathers your children,
Mm.
but you know where I will professionally draw the line is your kids. Like, that's
Yeah.
what I got out of this.
Yeah. I'll drag their dad, but I won't drag them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Otherwise,
I
like,
do. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, otherwise, like, I'm out. Like, I don't have anything really, like, specifically from this part of the reunion. I do have a couple of Potomac questions for you in general, but
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, what I was going to say, just generally, the vibe of this reunion is not sitting well with me based on the way Andy Cohen is handling a lot of things in
Mhm.
comparison to the way that he handled a lot of things about Erica Jane. And we could talk about it more when we talk about Erica Jane, but just her behavior at the Beverly Hills 4-part reunion was pretty gross, in my opinion. Like, I just talk about someone who doesn't take accountability or feel any empathy for people. And the way that she speaks to people is so inappropriate that to see the juxtaposition that how he handles that a wealthy or used to be wealthy, who knows,
Mhm.
white woman, and then the way that he speaks to Candace and holds
Yeah.
Candace to the fire is truly like kind of disgusting. Like, where was that energy for Erica Jane when she called Sutton? Am I allowed to say what she said? I mean, I don't even know. Like, do we want to go there? But like the bitchy effing see you next Tuesday. Like,
Oh, I
I
love the
mean,
C word, so I'm not
so
gonna
do
stop
I.
you
I don't know
from.
if people, yeah, I would
I
say
mean,
it if I, yeah. Well, she
you're
called her a
welcome.
bitchy fucking cunt. So in front of Andy Cohen, and Andy Cohen's response is, "You're a piece of work." But Candace says, "Your mama," and she gets a full first part of the reunion dragging her about what an awful person she is and how she
Yeah.
basically deserved to get beat up last year and would deserve it again if it happened to her. And
Mhm.
that didn't sit well with me at all.
No, I agree with you. I didn't even think of comparing the two, to be honest. But like now that you're bringing it up, it's like, oh yeah. And so where does race play into this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, I definitely see what you're saying and can agree with that because she definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, Candace hasn't really committed any crimes. I mean,
Right.
Erica, it hasn't been uh whatever it's called for it either, but I
She
used the word
benefited
earlier. Yeah.
from
So,
whatever was happening.
but the way that he kind of was like, how has talking to people worked for you?
Right.
Like, how is that going? And then, like, kept going in on her. No, I agree that, like, why weren't you talking to Erica this way? I do wonder if, and I'm not saying this in defense, just more like this is how my brain's thinking about it is does Andy Cohen have a list of things from Erica's lawyers saying, like, she'll be here, but it has to be done this way versus
Right.
like who's defending Candace right now? Her husbander, that like um
Yeah.
so I do wonder if in order for her to show up to the reunion, it was she'll be here, but you have to handle this in a certain
Yeah.
way. You
That
can
could be.
ask these
Could be.
questions because that would make some sense. Otherwise, Andy, like you have some introspective things that
Yeah.
you need to be doing.
Yeah.
So speaking of Candace, like where are you at with her? How do you feel about her?
Okay, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm a Candace fan. She makes
Okay.
great TV,
Mhm.
and she has driven the last 3 seasons at least of
Mhm.
Potomac. So I'm here for her. Do I think she's a disaster? Yes. Do I love watching her on television? Yes. Does she make me laugh? Yes. But I don't agree with some of the things that she says. Like I
Mhm.
do think she hits below the belt, and where I can't stand by Candace is the fact that she is another one that doesn't take any accountability. And
Mhm.
and I think that's really what Giselle was trying to drive home with her is that like you just have to take accountability for some of the things that you say. And she's kind of like, why? Why?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you don't have to be so indignant about it. But otherwise, I would be on her side 100%. I think in a
Mhm.
lot, maybe not 100%, but in a lot of situations, like I was on her side 100% last year in the situation with Monique.
Mhm.
Um, I was on her side most of the time with this season, but then, sometimes she just hits below the belt and it's some things that are like, yes, you can say things in the heat of the moment, but you have to understand that it doesn't always land well. And some of the things you say are offensive and just like say, I'm sorry. That's
Yeah.
it. Just rein it in. Just rein it in like a smidge.
If you catch me on, so I mean, maybe if you follow me on Twitter, Monday, I might have tweeted that like I just tore a whole softball team I was playing against like all new assholes. I went off on every single person on that field. It was very Candace-like. I can be very Candace-like. I suppress my Candaceisms.
Yep.
So I see a little bit of myself in her, but also like you said, there comes a point where it's either the accountability or you have to stop. Like I thought that, especially at the reunion, she knew at this point Mia's
Yep.
whole mom story, and to continue on about her mom, just like let it go.
Yeah.
Insult Mia. And Mia said that, like, come at me. Go for
Right.
it. Like,
Right.
insult my big feet. Do whatever. But like leave my mom out of this. And for I didn't think the your mom thing at the beginning was that big of a deal
No.
because she didn't know. But then once she knew, that's like you're an adult. If
Yeah.
someone came at you about your mom that way, like people have insinuated that she's still paying for stuff or whatever, like you flip out. So the
Mhm.
fact that like we have to ease up on some of these things, but I don't I'm not like her biggest fan, but I also am not opposed to her. I
Yeah.
just do wish that keep using your mouth for good. Like
Yep.
destroy people when they deserve to be destroyed, but also know when you need to stop. That's what I
Yes.
think I need out of Candace a little bit more. There's a lot of talk on Reddit of like fire her, get rid of her, blah blah.
Reddit has not been a fan of Candace. I think the general internet has not been a fan of Candace since the
Yeah.
beginning. Ooh, I don't know what sorry for that sound. But I think people are a little bit too hard on her in some instances. Like I said, it's always great to have somebody to root against, and she gives
Mhm.
us great TV. So like
Yeah.
we don't want to get rid of every morally not great person. I mean, I don't know what her morals are, but you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, we don't want just like all these prim and proper, wonderful people on the show because then we'd have no show. Like, Candace is the perfect person for these shows sometimes. Like
Yeah.
it just feels like she's giving us everything that we want and giving the other women a reason to react to her, and it's giving us great TV to watch. So let's try and like think about it that way. And she's funny. I mean, come on, she's funny.
Oh yeah. She even manages to give Giselle the opportunity to like be the good guy, which I don't know
Yes.
how often Giselle gets to be the good guy in this show. I'm a huge Giselle fan, by the way.
Same.
Like
Love her.
Giselle and Robin is my favorite duo of
Same.
any, and like I might even like Robin more than I like Giselle, but I really like the two of them. Um, so like when you have Giselle at a reunion being like, Candace, no, you need to like, it's like, whoa, the woman who just like runs her mouth relentlessly, but
Yep.
does it with this like sense of class and grace. She does a great job of it. I respect how she's able to like take Karen down so often
Yes.
that like if she's telling you that you're doing too much at that you've reached a line.
Right. We need some introspection here at
Yes.
that point. Yeah.
But I'm not against her. I just am not like I'll always want Giselle and Robin there over Candace. And
Me too. And I'm worried about Robin because she's not getting a ton of screen time on this reunion and
mhm.
we can't lose her. Like please keep Robin with us forever. I love her. She brings such like a good just she brings the show down to earth a little bit and I
Yes.
really like that.
She definitely does, but, like, she'll still get drunk, like, when she, like, was like, "Oh, the fuck myself," and it's,
Yeah,
like,
that
fake
was amazing.
masturbating,
Just yes, that
like,
was amazing.
downs 4 shots of whiskey in, like,
Mhm.
2.5 minutes, like, Robin can bring that to the show, but then also be the voice of reason. I think that's why I like Robin, because in these shows with so much drama, I tend to, like, really appreciate the person who is able to be like, "Okay,
Yep.
everybody breathe.
Yep.
Let's look at this from a non-dramatic point of view." And I
Right.
think Robin does that a lot.
Totally agree.
Did you agree with Robin and Giselle about Wendy in terms of her transformation from season 1 to season 2? Or
I
maybe lack
did.
of transformation? It depends on
I
what your opinion is.
I did agree with Robin and Giselle, and maybe that's again, I don't know if that's controversial or not. I don't know what the general opinion is, but I didn't see what they were doing as body shaming. Wendy had a party to unveil her breast implants and her BBL, and then it became a conversation. And I don't think, I mean, yeah, maybe talking about the husband on the blogs isn't great, but
Mhm.
Eddie is following a bunch of Instagram chicks on his Instagram. Like it
Yeah.
feels like it's listen. it is what it is. You signed up for the show. You know things are going to get talked about. You can't get that upset about it. I don't think it was a body shaming comment. I think it was like a you are just a different person than you were last season
Mhm.
comment. This is part of it, but there's also just her personality seems very different.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm not saying that she lacks substance. She's obviously extremely smart. And I
right.
think what to me feels like happened is that the conversation last season was so much focused around her 4 degrees, and she kept saying 4 degrees. I'm Dr. Wendy. I'm this.
Mhm.
And I think there was a lot of criticism or people kind of poking fun at that on the internet. And she probably took that criticism in and wanted to be like a little bit different this season and show another
Yeah.
side of herself. But it was obvious. It was very obvious that there was a shift in her personality.
Mhm.
And again, maybe it is just seeing a different side of her, but it didn't feel like there was any balance. It felt like the pendulum swung from one side to the other with Wendy. And
Yes.
like it's like, who is this person? And it didn't feel authentic to me on Wendy's behalf either.
No, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying right now. The thing that gets me is I think that if Giselle hadn't said the substance part,
Yeah.
everything's valid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything. Um, and like clearly she has substance. She's a very intelligent woman who has personality and like can do all these different things. But other than that, like I do wonder that if she having the season like aired and everything and being able to see it herself, does she like have some different opinions on herself now? Like, did
Right.
she get to reflect and think about it? Or are we going to even get more? Like, is she going to double down on this? And next season, we're going to see like Zen Wen 2.0, which is
Ugh.
like the opposite of Zen at all. So,
I don't know if I need Wendy next season.
okay, because that's my like last question about Potomac is we've had a relatively stable cast for this.
Yep.
Um,
The most OGs left standing, I think, is
Yeah,
in
so
a
what we've
city.
had Karen, Giselle, Robin, Ashley was season 1 as well, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
those 4 for the whole time,
Yep.
and then Candace has been there for,
Since season 3, I think
yeah,
Candace
3
joined. I
seasons.
think Monique was season 2 when
Mhm.
she's gone. And then I think Candace was the season after that.
Yeah, and then Wendy was last season and Mia this season.
Yep.
So,
Mhm.
um, we've had a pretty solid core. Now given do you want any of that core to leave?
No. I would love the 4 to stay.
Mhm.
I'm not a huge Ashley fan. Like, I don't really root for Ashley, but
Mhm.
again, makes great TV. She's a
Yeah.
great housewife. She puts it all out there, and the her and her Coronas. I wish I never had to see her disgusting husband again, but she knows she understands the assignment. She knows what she's there to do. She does it, and she does it really well. So I can't slam her for it too much. Giselle and Karen are queens. Robin is a queen. Like I don't want to lose any of them.
Mhm.
The others, Candace, I don't want to see go anywhere. Wendy, where are we going with Wendy at this point? Like,
Right.
I just don't know. Mia, I think give her another season, but she feels like she's just trying a little too hard because she knows she's on TV, and
Mhm.
that kind of feels a little inauthentic to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't wanna lose I mean, like I've said, I love Giselle and Robin especially. Um, Karen, like, I can't stand her, but in the way that you've described how, like,
Mhm.
you have an appreciation for these people, that's kinda how I feel about Karen, where it's like, I don't need to hear about Ray, I don't
No.
even like, the Grand Dame, all this, like, she's up on this pedestal that she's created herself to me, and so however, I do think that if you lose Karen, there's a whole dynamic of the show that is gone. So she's like, I would rather have Ashley than her, but at the same time, I don't want to lose any of them. You took my comment, which I don't need Michael Darby on TV. He's disgusting. I could actually lose like all of the husbands except for Juan Dixon. I love Juan Dixon.
I love Juan Dixon visually. I don't like the way that he spoke or handled Robin this season. Like,
Yes.
obviously, she was going through some mental health struggles. The pandemic
Yes.
was not easy on a lot of people, and it felt like she is one of the people who felt that impact really hard, and I didn't like the way that he dealt with that with her, and then kind of the way that he was toward the end of the season where they were talking about having another kid.
Mhm.
Obviously, he didn't want some of those things aired on camera, but, like, this is what you signed up for, or I mean, you're a part of it, right? You're on the show. It's not like you're refusing to film. I don't love the way that he handled her, but he is a beautiful man.
He definitely had some rocky points this season. From an overall Potomac seasons 1 through whatever, like I just like their story. I like their
Yeah.
redemption arc. I do understand Robin's concern of like, okay, well, the last 2 times I was pregnant, you're off like having sex with other women. So like
Mhm.
I'm allowed to have these feelings, and he doesn't get that.
Yep.
But I do think he has a valid point of like, it's however many years later, I've clearly changed, I've showed you. But I I would be just as reserved and hesitant
Yeah.
as her as well. So,
Yeah.
but I'm an overall Juan Dixon fan. I could lose all of the husbands from this show, and I don't think we lose a dynamic in
I do like Chris.
Candace's husband.
Mhm.
Yeah, but okay, yes. However, this season I wasn't as big of a Chris fan, and I also felt like they were building up to this like drinking issue that kind of just like
Oh, you
was.
know what? You're right. They did zoom in on his glasses, like his alcohol glasses a few times, and then it never went anywhere.
Yeah, how many times she's like, "Are you drinking already?" And
Yeah.
that was like a main Chris component this year. And so that just caused me some concern a little bit that if you're like willing to drink that much on camera, then like what are you doing off camera? And like just concern for his safety, but also then like drinking can lead to other issues. So that's I guess it's not so much like not liking Chris, it's just he caused me concern this season that I didn't
Mhm.
see resolved or really like addressed in a way like, hey, we're concerned about you. It was just kind of like thrown out there pretty regularly, like, Chris, you're
Yeah.
drinking again. Chris, you're drunk. Are you still drunk from last night, Chris? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that was a repetitive thing for him that just has me like, oh, well, like, we've also seen you get angry. And so when drinking and anger,
Yeah.
it's like, this is how I feel when I'm watching, like, you know, in a movie or a TV show when they're driving and they look at someone for too long while they're
Yes.
driving. I
Yes, and you're like, "Look
always
at the
get this
road."
like deep feeling of like someone's gonna die. And that's
Yeah.
just like, that was the kind of the feeling that I was getting from when he was on screen a lot. Like, not someone's gonna die, but just like, I feel like
Another shoe
something
is gonna
bad's
drop.
gonna happen
Yeah.
here. When's it gonna happen? You were building up to something happening. And so that's kind of like my Chris reservation after this season.
That is so interesting. So I really didn't I noticed what you were saying, but I not to the I guess to the level that you noticed it. So I'm curious if either they're going to bring it up at the reunion or if they're going to we're going to see something play out next season.
Yeah. But I know we won't lose the husbands. I think that sometimes they're too involved in this show for a
Yeah.
show that doesn't need it.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
So that's how I kind of feel about the men there. Anything else you want to talk about Potomac before we get to the namesake of our podcast?
No, let's do it. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about with Potomac when Nicki Minaj comes on the reunion. And I have a lot of feelings about it, but I'll save it for when we talk about it when it actually
Okay,
happens. So,
perfect. Real Housewives Ultimate Girl Trip, which the on Reddit, like, by the way, Reddit, if you want to sponsor our podcast, we've
yeah.
mentioned you 1,800 times and
Yeah.
it's only going to continue to happen. So just DM me. I just made my tweets open again, literally right before the podcast. It took
Shout
10
out
minutes.
to the Bravo Real Housewives subreddit.
Yes. But you know how they have like the flare tags?
Yes.
Theirs is just RHUGT. So the first time I read it as thug. And I'm just like, they spelled thug wrong. And why is thug in all capitals? Like, are they talking about the criminals? And then I'm like, Kari, you're dumb. Like, why is your brain mixing up these letters? And this is what it means.
Well, I tweeted it the other day, and I think it's one of the first, if not the only, housewives like hashtag that doesn't have the O, like Real Housewives of. Well, I
Yeah.
guess Real Housewives Orange County is OC,
Mhm.
but everything else has the O. And this just like I tweeted something on Monday about how even just thrilling it was to hear all of the different uh theme songs together. I don't even know
Mhm.
if you can consider them a theme song, but like the intro music to all the different cities in one episode and just like hear them played one after another. I was like, this is giving me everything. Like I just like the endorphins that were running through me when I was
Mhm.
watching it. I didn't expect to have these feelings. But anyway, I tweeted about it and I was like, this can't be the hashtag. It looks like someone's like retching or like sick and just like making the
Mhm.
like the noise or something. I
And
don't
then
love it, but it is what it is.
you know how, like, it's kind of a trend type of thing to put, like, the T at the end of certain words, like,
Mhm.
period, to, like, make the point, and that's what
Mhm.
that hashtag also gives me, like, that type
Mm.
of vibe of, like,
Mhm.
rugged, like, the
Yeah.
period, and, like,
Yep.
I don't anyway, we maybe could have done better. We could have maybe had a little more foresight on our hashtags and our subreddit
Yeah.
flares, but we're here. It's too late.
We're
We
here.
gotta deal with it. Um, First and foremost, because this only came out how many nights ago?
So it wasn't even supposed to come out until tomorrow. So it was
Oh,
supposed to start on November 18th, which I believe is tomorrow.
it's tomorrow.
And Peacock just randomly tweeted and was like, surprise, we're here with 3 episodes unlocked early. The first episode is free. The other two, you need premium to watch them early. So I
Mhm.
haven't dabbled. Like I think we talked about, I haven't opened my purse strings for the extra $5. Thinking about doing it for a month and then canceling, but we'll see if I can hold out. Um, yeah, it was just a shock, and I stayed up way too late watching the first episode, and it was glorious. I was on a high.
Mhm. So if you haven't watched yet and are planning on watching and want to save this part of our podcast
Yeah.
till after you watch, we invite you to just leave us. It's been real. We will catch you soon. We're coming
Yes.
back, we promise. But
Yes.
um I would advise watching before listening to this part because
Yes.
um we'll spoil this episode for you,
Yes.
and this is
And
not one you
experience it.
want. Yeah, exactly, you do not want to hear us talk about it first and then watch it.
Right.
You want to see this for yourself, like in the flesh, and then come back and get to like revel in the conversation about it.
Yes. And this is one of those things, like, obviously the first 3 episodes are out, they're out there, people are making memes and posting about them, and I'm,
Hmm.
like, immediately swiping away. I'm like, "No, I can't know anything about these 2 episodes because the first one was just so amazing and better than I ever thought it could be that I need to experience the rest not knowing anything." Like, I
Yes.
just wanna go in completely unknowing of storylines and what's gonna happen, and I'm just 'cause it was just invigorating.
All right. So I don't have a lot of notes about this because first and foremost, as I've mentioned, I'm in the process of watching Atlanta. So I haven't experienced oh god, am I gonna pull a Ramona and call her Portia instead of Kenya? uh Kenya and Cynthia,
Cynthia.
right?
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
I'm getting there. Names are like something I'm the worst at. And I haven't experienced the New Jersey women, which is it Melissa and Teresa?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
Kari, good job crushing
Yes.
it. So,
Yes.
because in my notes I just wrote Atlanta and NJ women. So, can
Mm.
you give me and our listeners the
Yes.
insight, especially on those four? I can probably add in on the other three, but especially those four because I know nothing except what I saw last night when I watched this first episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cynthia has been with us, I think, since maybe season 3 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. She is not going to be on the new season, though, which is very interesting. She has historically been really good friends with Nene. They had a falling out. She wrote a friend contract for Nene. That was very controversial. She's gotten married twice on the show. She's a good housewife, but she's very even keel. She's like, she's there. She's friends with the women. She kind of keeps it low key, but she's beautiful. We love watching her on the show. She has great fashion. She has great hair. She's just
Mhm.
gorgeous. Um, she's never given me too much personally, but I've always enjoyed her in the past.
Okay.
But she's very like she's low key, but she's funny. You know, she had her place on the show. Kind of like a Robin. She has like a similar vibe to Robin, where she's more down to earth. Then we have Kenya, who is Cynthia's friend, good friend. Um, she's a villain and she fights and she's amazing television. I mean, she's incredible TV. She has a historical feud with Portia. She has a feud with Nene. She is hilarious. She famously got dragged by Portia on the reunion and they got into a physical altercation because she brought a I'm trying to think of the word. It's a scepter, I think, and was pointing a scepter in Portia's face. And that she's provocative. She likes to
Mhm.
provoke the women. So you know you're gonna get drama when Kenny's around, but she's hilarious and she's great. She's great television. And she's also freaking gorgeous. She
Yeah.
was recently on Dancing with the Stars. She took a season off, maybe 2 seasons, but she's back now. She's going through a divorce. She had a baby at 50.
At
And we're
50?
50 years old.
She
She had a
birthed
baby at
it?
50. She sure did. She
What
sure did.
the? That's
Yeah,
possible?
she did
That
it.
is the
She
highest
did
risk
it.
of pregnancy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. And she doesn't look 50.
No, she's beautiful. Not that 50-year-old women aren't beautiful, but she does not look 50.
Right.
Yeah, she's great. New Jersey, these women are so close to my heart. I'm a convert, so I was never a Teresa Giudice fan. Been watching Real Housewives of New Jersey since the beginning. Kari, when I tell you it's one of the best cities, I think it's criminally underrated how
Mhm.
good New Jersey is.
Did you say
Teresa's
criminally because of Teresa or sorry.
unintentional. Um, I used to be a Manzo fan. For anybody that watched Real Housewives of New Jersey, I was always on the Manzo side. I've switched completely. I did a rewatch over the pandemic, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Teresa has been in the right this whole time. I had an awakening, and I stand Teresa Giudice. I stand her. I'm like, I'm here for her. I will ride for her forever, and I'll defend her to the death if I have to. She's been through so much. She's just been through to hell and back. She went to jail. Her husband got deported. Her kids, she's raising her 4 daughters. The way she says daughters is very New
It's the
Jersey.
same way, yeah, like with water, how it's like water.
Yes, yes. And Melissa is her sister-in-law. So they never got along historically. Melissa came on the show in season 3, did with their cousin Kathy. Kathy and Melissa did not tell Teresa they were coming on the show. And they've always had like a little bit of a feud underneath it all before coming on the show. And they came on the show, they didn't tell Teresa, and the plan was always to kind of like take down Teresa. That's kind of what it seemed like. And they always made it seem like Teresa wanted to take down Melissa. I firmly believe that it was the other way around after
Mhm.
after rewatch and kind of thinking about it all. But they have a very tense relationship. So that's kind of where some of like the aren't you glad you're here with your sister-in-law? And she's like, yeah. And then like, she's like, Melissa's not an OG, just saying. Like that's kind of where
Yeah.
all of that comes from because they have
Okay.
a very deep history.
That
And
makes
they're,
sense.
they're related. So
Okay. I
not
now
really related, but
understand
married, but by marriage.
more about them than I did like 5 minutes ago, so I appreciate that a lot.
Of
I mean, there
course.
was things that you could, pick up on, like,
Hmm.
um, they really emphasize that Cynthia is, like, a peacemaker,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
I think I can't remember if I saw it on Reddit, if it was actually on the actual show. I wasn't the producer, like, her calling you a bitch and you, like or, like, something about this is you getting mad about this when, like, you do this all the time on your show type of thing, like,
Yes.
they,
Yes.
implied that this is not out of character for her to do, so for her to,
Hmm.
like, get upset about it would be a little hypocritical, um, and then, like, I only know of Teresa. I don't know anything about her. I'm saving New Jersey for last, so I will get to get to experience her after seeing her on the show, which I think will be interesting to kinda, like, get the flashback.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, then we have our other 3, which is Ramona, Luann, and Kyle.
Yep.
So, uh, in terms of Kyle, like, I think it's a no-brainer that she'd be on the show. Isn't she, like, an executive producer for Beverly Hills? Like, isn't she somewhere in the, like, line of
So
command?
it's not official that she is, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were like a secret, like her name was under like a pseudonym in the credits somewhere
Mhm.
because and I have a lot of thoughts about that, but I do feel like she produces a lot. She was producing a lot on this episode. It's kind of
Yeah.
just like she stirs the pot. I'm a Lisa Vanderpump stan. She's my number one girl forever. So I automatically am not for Kyle, but
Mhm.
I do think she has her place on the show. I think again, she's another one who's like kind of normal, doesn't cause too much drama, but isn't afraid to stir the pot and kind of kick the drama up. So, but she's doing what she has to do.
Yeah, and, um, I do think that she knows what she's doing.
She
She
does.
she is intentional, she is intelligent, she
Yep.
knows what consequences her actions have, and she is okay with those consequences. Because a lot
Yep.
of times she's kind of able to just be like she pours the gasoline on the
She
fire and
does.
then
She
just like,
does.
"Gotta go, see ya."
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Always walks
Uh,
away unscathed.
I have, like, a sincere problem with Luann still having a platform. I have a problem. I don't know if it's as sincere of a problem with Ramona still having a platform. Um,
Interesting.
I've always thought Ramona is trash. Like straight up, can't stand the woman.
Yes.
Despite the fact that I messaged you and was like, we have to name our podcast after something Ramona said
Yeah.
because this is pure gold. So like, I don't know. The fact that Luann has got to stick around after doing blackface, after like,
Yeah.
I mean, I clearly don't care about getting arrested up in this series, whatever. All of the stuff from this past season with just like how insensitive and just, I don't know if ignorant is too harsh of a word, but like ignorant she is towards like race relations
I
and
don't think
just
ignorance too harsh of a word at all.
okay. And I think Ramona's in the same boat, to be honest, but Ramona hasn't shown up in blackface to a party. So that's why she's like a degree lower than Luann for me. So I don't like that they still get this platform. I get what they bring to the show, and it's hard to ignore that, but how much can you ignore, I guess?
Right.
So you're a much better historian than I am. What do the people, well, first of all, one of my best skills is watching a season of a especially reality TV show and forgetting everyone and everything that happened. I'm not joking.
That's how I feel about every show except Housewives. For some reason I retain it. Everything else, like Survivor, that's why earlier I said I'm not a Survivor or a Big Brother super fan, because it doesn't stay with me the same way that these women stay with me for some reason.
Yeah, I'm like that with the challenge. I'm pretty good at remembering stuff from the challenge and like being able to go back and be like, oh yeah, this and this. But other than that, it's like it happened in that season. Okay, I'm out. Like, please leave my memory. I need space for this next upcoming season. It's so what does someone who hasn't experienced Luann and Ramona throughout New York have to know about them?
So I think Ramona, to talk about a little bit what you just said about Luann and Ramona, I feel the same way. I'm just more heavily leaning toward Ramona shouldn't have a platform than Luann, but I don't disagree with anything that you said. The blackface was terrible. She dressed up as Diana Ross for a Halloween party. It was not good. I mean, it wasn't.
Also, how did it get stopped? How did Bravo not one single producer be like, but I can tell you how it didn't get stopped. It's probably because there's not a single black producer on that show at the time. Yeah. And that's why people are like, oh, she's just dressing as this famous singer and not like,
it was a really bad, really bad situation. I think the issues with Luann are a little bit more isolated, where Ramona, I feel like it kind of just like lives with her throughout, and you can kind of, it's just like always present that she's so problematic. Where Luann, it's like she'll do something and then it's like you can almost chalk it up to her being ignorant, even though like I'm not giving her an excuse, because it's not okay and there's no reason to be ignorant, and there's no excuse for it. But it feels like it's these more isolated incidents, whereas Ramona, it's just constant, and she doesn't reflect. Where I feel like Luann, you see these things with her, and she got arrested for assaulting a police officer. She goes and she helps women who are homeless, and she volunteers. It seems like she does something. So it's like
she gets
sometimes
sober.
she got sober. She's almost feels like she's trying to better herself, where Ramona's just like happy living in her shit. And that is where like
she's just like, I apologized.
Yeah.
Okay, but you've apologized for the same thing.
Yeah, she doesn't grow. There's no growth, no personal growth with Ramona. Whereas sometimes I can see that Luann is at least trying to grow. So like that's why I feel like it's less offensive for Luann, even though they're both offensive. Ramona is a true monster of a person. She's a monster, but she is. I don't even know what to say, because I really truly don't think that there's a way that Bravo can bring her back for New York. So the background on New York is New York had their first black housewife this past season, Ebony. Things did not go well with these old white women, specifically Ramona. There's an investigation going on behind the scenes at Bravo because of racial insensitivities. They've canceled the reunion for the first time in Real Housewives history. New York has been a pillar of the Real Housewives, and it's always been everybody loves New York. New York always delivers. They're not coming back until 2023 because of the fallout from this one season of just having one black woman on the show. So that's kind of like where we're at. It's like, and it shook the earth because
to be clear, the fallout, not because of the black women,
but the way that these ignorant racist women
reacted
Yes.
and interacted with the Black woman who is cast. So
Yes,
I'm not saying that you
exactly.
said that, but I just want to make
Yes,
sure
thank
that
you for making
if
that clear,
someone
yeah.
were to come and like pick this up and
Wait,
be like,
what?
"Did you
Yeah.
hear what Katie said?"
Yeah. No, thank you, yes.
So
Um, thank you for elaborating on that.
yes, that was
Uh
completely having your back, not trying to well
N
actually you.
no, 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 no. And I appreciate it. But yeah, so that's kind of like where we're at with them. So kind of to see Ramona on the show is surprising. I do appreciate that we're seeing the worst of her and they're not making her look good. So it
Mhm,
feels like they're like, "Oh, we have to edit her to look as awful as she actually is instead of like trying to save her a little bit." Because it feels like to me maybe they know that she's not going to be back for
mhm.
another season. I just don't see a way that they could ever bring her back. But
Yeah.
she's making the show right now. I mean, it's really the reactions to her that's making
Yeah.
this, at least in the first episode. We'll see what comes, but I'm uncomfortable watching her on TV at this point.
To me, like, so as being, I don't know if I can say super fan for the challenge, but it's my favorite TV show. Um, they're doing their All Stars series, just
Mhm.
like how we're seeing the All Stars version of Housewives in like a non-competition form, whatever, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they're bringing back people to this All Stars series who like didn't really get invites back for different things. And um, because it's on this like streaming service and it's not on the TV series
Mm.
or the TV channel. And so I wonder if we're seeing similarities and like,
Mm.
well, it's not like we're putting her on TV. You have to like, you can't flip through your TV and find Ramona right now. But
Right.
if you are choosing to watch her, that's on you because you are going onto Peacock and watching this, and we know she's going to bring in ratings for our streaming service, which
Yeah.
the more we can build this up right now, the better it can become. So I wonder if it's something like that, like you had mentioned, like we're going to give her this side platform right now, knowing
Mhm.
she's not going to come back, but also knowing like the benefit of having her in this series. So,
Yes. I can see that. I think she has been a pretty big part of the press
mhm,
for it. She was on Watch What Happens Live last night with the rest of the women. I know she's out in LA doing some promos for it. So I would have liked to have seen them kind of maybe leave her out of it. It would, to me, to equate it to something that happened in the challenge, it would be like if they brought Camilla back for me. Like,
oh, yes.
obviously,
And there's a
she is
lot
a
going down with
Camilla.
her right now. Yeah.
Yes, I've been keeping up, and shout out to Leroy. We stand.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of like how I would think of her. Is she's kind of like a Camilla like figure. She's problematic. And Camilla made good TV too. She was a train
Mhm.
wreck. She was fun to watch, but there has to come a point where it's just like, okay, enough is enough. Like it's not worth this. And I think we're almost at that point with Ramona, but they're squeezing a little bit of juice out of
Mhm.
her still for
Yeah.
this. And I think, for season 2, there's been a season 2 they filmed already. I know
Is it
you haven't
different
got
women?
it's different women. It's going to be at Dorinda's house in the Berkshires.
Dorinda.
Mhm.
All right, in the
Yes.
Berkshires.
Yes.
Wow, I need
Um
to go look this up after. Who like
yes.
are you able to rattle off who else is?
I know that Vicky and Tamra from the OC are gonna be on. I know that Brandy Glanville from Beverly Hills is on.
Okay.
Obviously, Dorinda.
Mhm.
I'm definitely missing some, but the
A lot
one
of
that I did
blondes.
lot of blondes. The one that I did wanna call out is Phaedra, and I know you haven't gotten there yet, but there have been
Mhm.
some terrible things that Phaedra has done on Real Housewives, and it's like, again, it's like they wouldn't bring her on the real show because I think the women wouldn't film with her because of
Yeah.
some of the things that she's done, and accusations that she's made. But they could put her on this thing because, like, the fans still like her and she was funny, so we'll put her on this and we'll make people happy. But I'm a little surprised that they put Phaedra on the show. Same way that I'm surprised that Ramona is on this show, or at least I don't know the filming schedule, but
Yeah.
feels like it was a little close. It was a little close.
Yeah. Well, let's get to Ramona because like
Yeah.
you said, she has been the centerpiece of why last night's episode was as good as it was. Or by last night, I mean I watched it last night, but
Yeah. Mhm, mhm.
whenever you watch
Whenever it
it,
came out.
the
Yeah.
generally you. Um, so first and foremost, where we got our our title from, when they're all talking about their own series of like, well, Beverly Hills is the most watched, and this, and like we're the longest like on TV. I like that Ramona's like on the longest like OG, but hasn't Luann been there the same amount of time
Yeah,
as her?
Luann's been there since season 1. So
I
I don't know why Ramona there was one season that Luann was demoted to a
Oh,
friend
she was a
of,
friend because
but
she like moved
she's
to the Hamptons.
Yeah, but she's still on the show. I mean, she was still on the show,
Yeah.
so she's been there since the
Yeah.
beginning.
Okay. I guess if she wants to make that stipulation, I would have to back Ramona in that because that
Mhm.
one technicality, but um so she was like, yeah, the New York Times said we were the cool water show where people at work, when they would like need a break, they would go and drink cool water and talk about our show. And someone's
Yeah.
like, do you mean the water cooler
Yeah, everyone's like,
show?
"It's the water cooler show, not the cool water show." She's just such an idiot. She's such a freaking
I was
idiot.
dying at that. Like I thought it was so funny. And because I knew it wasn't on purpose. Like it was a
Oh, yeah.
genuine like Ramonaism. And
Yeah.
so that's where we named our show after. I
Cool
text
water
Katie
show.
immediately. It was just like, this is it.
Yep.
This has to be it.
Yep.
But she calls Kenya a bitch on the plane.
Yeah, this was, like, so wild. So it starts off with her calling Kyle and saying Teresa's like a scarecrow with no brain. So that's before she even I mean, maybe she's met
Talk
her in the
about the
past.
pot calling the kettle black.
I
Like,
mean, truly. Truly. Uh, talk about, like, self introspection or whatever.
mhm,
Like, you have no self-awareness whatsoever. Then on the plane, she's talking about how she went down to Turks and Caicos, flirted that's where the show is taking place, is
mhm.
they're filming in Turks and Caicos, and they're on a private jet together, and she talks about how she went down there, met this guy, she was flirting with him while she was married. She said, "I decided I didn't wanna be with my husband anymore," and Kenny's like, "Oh, so you were married?" And it just goes off the rails
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah, like, or I can't remember what led to like her calling her a bitch, like the specific sentence, like, but none. She didn't need to call her a bitch. Straight up,
No,
just didn't need to.
no, no.
I thought Kenya handled it well.
I thought so too. I thought so too.
It also helped
I
that
don't know what
everyone
I
was
would have
like,
done in that moment.
"Oh, I would have flipped out." I know,
Yeah.
100%. I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Bitch, like, all right."
Right.
Um, but I do think that it helped that everyone was like, "Excuse me, but
Right.
who are you?" Like, no, 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 no. You need to
Right.
stop. Like, people shut it down quickly, which I thought um was good because I also think that if you like fan those flames a little bit, you could have had even a bigger scene and bigger drama,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
because they're in a confined space. Like
Oh,
Ramona
yeah.
can't pull her stunt of walking away like she
Yeah.
normally does when she's involved in conflict. Um,
Mhm.
so that probably like ended the best way it could for Ramona.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Um, so they land, they get to the house. Oh, well, let's backtrack. On the plane, Cynthia, right, is like,
I'm
hey,
so glad you're talking about this because
yes.
yes.
She's like, listen, Kenya just had a baby. She's going through a divorce. I think she should get the best room because if you watch Housewives, you know, on every trip, it is such a debacle over who gets the best room. Um, and usually it's like the person hosting the trip gets the best
Mhm.
room, but none of them are hosting it. And you have a lot of like the lead characters who tend to get the best room on
Yeah.
their season. So then it's like, who gets it? And like Ramona notoriously gets the best room.
Yes. She's a monster when it comes to getting the room. The
Yes.
one thing I do wanna Cynthia brought a large photo of Kenya's daughter, Brooklyn, a
Mhm.
very large photo, like a poster
Oh,
board,
and the ribbon?
and a giant pair of scissors, and was just standing there talking about how she's going through a divorce. This is the first time she's left her daughter with this huge pair of scissors in her hand, and I truly thought she was gonna chop up that damn picture of her daughter. She didn't. She brought a ribbon. I don't understand, like, cut the umbilical cord, she was saying, but it
Mhm.
was just, like, so bizarre. I was like, "Is she about to, like, hack up this picture of this baby? Like, what is happening here with these huge scissors?" It was bizarre. It was like a bizarre scene. I didn't really know what was going on.
So, as a former summer camp director and a current teacher who doesn't have a classroom, I live out of my backpack.
Yes.
I've had 2 pairs of regular size scissors seized by the TSA. How did those get through security? That's
Oh,
what
great
I wanna
question.
know.
Oh, that's a great question. Oh,
It's a private
maybe
jet,
because it's a private jet?
but I saw that and I was like, I had regular scissors that I just used to cut paper in a classroom that hadn't been seized by TSA, and she can bring on blades that can cut off someone's head.
Unbelievable.
I am
Huge.
upset by the elitism happening. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not in the right tax bracket to keep my
Nope.
scissors. But yeah, those
Nope.
all of a sudden I'm like, because a lot of the times I'll like play games on my phone while I'm watching these. So I'm like listening, but I'm not exactly like watching all the time. And I just look up and there's this giant pair of scissors on the screen.
So bizarre. It was a weird, like, connection, like, cutting the umbilical cord. It
Yeah.
was just very strange. Like,
Like,
her
"You're
daughter's,
leaving
like,
your baby for the first
53.
time, so we're
Yeah.
cutting." Okay, like, a little much, but the fanfare and the notion of, like, give her the best room is appreciated.
Yes. And
Until
Ramona agrees.
yeah, Ramona's like,
"Okay,
"Yeah,
fine."
I
She'll
can get
take
the
up the
next best
master.
room."
Yeah.
Until they get to the house, and then Ramona runs like the little rat that she is up to
Yes.
the best room and just lays in the bed in, like, all of her clothes, her shoes, everything, and, like, waits for everyone to get there and is like, "I'm right here. It was a
Yeah,
joke. I'm trying to be
sh
funny. I'm right here."
Yeah, we have this, like, concierge, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like, the whole concierge thing, I feel like the production of this is very strange. Like, you can tell there we have a theme song with lyrics that
Mhm.
says, like, "Housewives in the Island." It's just very strange. But then we have, like, this focus on this concierge guy. So they're all introing themselves to this guy, and she just, like, scurries in, like you said, the rat that she is, and she's like, "Where's the ladies' room?" And then she just, like, goes and gets the lay of the land, and then she doesn't take the master, but she takes the next
Yeah.
best room. And she you're right, her dirty fucking feet, and gets in the bed in all of her clothes that she was just on a plane with, just sitting there sipping her water like a fucking, I don't know. It's just uh
Like
she's an
Ramona.
animal. Yeah.
Yes. Like, there's no other way to describe it.
And she
Even
doesn't know these
Luann.
women. She can get
Yeah.
away with this in her cast because they're just like, it's just Ramona, whatever, typical. But like she does not know these women.
Mhm. And even Luann's just like, I
Yeah.
I come from the same place, but please do not lump me in with her. Like,
Yeah.
I bear no responsibility for the actions taken by this woman. Um, so then, like, as they're walking around the house and stuff, like, Ramona jumps in the shower, and how many people see Ramona naked before, like, the second commercial break of the show? All of them?
This is like, yeah, it had to be all of them. And it's like she stays in the room and Kenya and Cynthia go up to be like, Ramona, you can't have this room. Like you need to be considerate. You have to make it fair. And she's fully nude in the shower. And we basically see her naked. I mean,
Yeah.
they blur, but like we get it. We know what we're missing here in these like small little blurs. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my God, I didn't never needed to see this much of Ramona ever in
No.
my life. So they saw her naked, and then Teresa comes in with the concierge, and the concierge sees her naked. It's like everybody sees her naked,
Mhm.
and she has no shame. She's just standing there showering herself with the shower head, completely nude in front of the camera. It's just wild.
I never do that with the shower head. Like,
Me
I have
neither. I
one of
never take
those.
it down.
Yeah,
I don't
like,
take it down.
I
I
have,
take it
like
down to like rinse the shower down, but not myself. I leave it
yeah.
up.
I have, like, a regular shower head, and then because I think to, like, make the bathroom handicap accessible, they
Mm,
have the removable one, and it's
yeah,
just, like, I never do I feel like the rest of my body would get cold, so anyway, when I saw her doing that, I'm like,
yeah.
"That's a weird showering technique, that's not
Very
what I
weird.
do," but then when I see things like that, I'm like, "Am I the weird one? Does
Yeah. Am I
everybody
doing it
else
wrong?
do this, and I just don't know?"
If anybody's listening, let us know how you shower.
Actually, when I just started mentioning that, like, someone left the live thing.
They're like, don't need to know.
Sorry. I'm so
So sorry.
sorry. My
No
bad.
judgment.
Yeah, just but those are things I genuinely wonder when I see it's like, "Oh, am I weird or are they weird? And then how
Yeah,
do I bring this up to figure out if I'm the weird one?"
right.
Um,
Well,
so I
I'm
just
with you.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Then it's 2 versus 1, and it's the one is
Yeah.
Ramona, so we're definitely right.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, so everyone kind of just got like gives up and is like, "All right, Ramona, do your thing. Like, take it. It's not worth the hassle." Like, Kyle and Melissa were friends before this, so they
Mhm.
like take the bad room, which kind of like is nicer than anything I've ever stayed in my entire life.
Yeah, but when you see that villa, you're like, there's no other rooms because it's huge. It's like a
Yeah.
huge estate. I don't know how there are only 6 bedrooms and Melissa really got the short end because she got like a bunk bed
Yeah.
in a room with no window. Like, I
Oh,
don't know how she pulled the short straw on that one, but like Kyle's, I think the half of her room, they share a bathroom. And I
mhm.
think Kyle's has like I don't know if it has a balcony, but it has a window at least.
Yeah, and, Melissa's just doesn't have a window at all.
Nope.
And they did that on purpose, so it's like, there's
Yeah.
gonna be a disagreement about this, but I
Yeah.
think it went a lot better. I don't think that they expected the disagreement to happen when they selected this house, like, "Oh, there's this shit room." The disagreement is gonna be over the shit room, when
Right.
really it's Melissa's just like, "Alright, I'm without
Whatever.
a window for, like, 8 days, which kinda sucks." And Kyle's like, "I can take the second worst room," but then it's Ramona and everybody, like, going with that.
Mhm.
I bet you they were surprised in a way. Like, I'm sure they weren't surprised by Ramona's antics, but it's like, "Oh, we thought, like, we would get drama after or out of someone having to stay in this bunker.
Yeah.
And when really like Melissa's like, whatever, okay, fine by me. Like I'm getting a
And
paycheck.
it sounded like they were trying to put Ramona in that room when they
Yes.
were all talking about it, and Luann was like, "That's not happening."
Yeah.
She was like, "No, that's not.
Like
She's
if
not
you
staying
want to
down
deal
here."
with her like crying,
Yeah.
kicking and screaming, go for it. But
Mhm.
best of luck on that one. Um, so then I really does you have to refresh my memory if anything really happens before we get to dinner. Like, was there anything? Oh, they were sitting at the meal. I don't know if like anything. Oh, yes, something worthwhile happens. Ramona's not wearing shit.
She's naked. She is
Every
naked again.
yes, she is wearing like a thong. She's wearing nipple covers and she's wearing a very, very, very see-through cover up.
Yeah, it's like
And
a knit. It's like a white knit cover up that comes like to her thigh, but like when I say knit, it's like open. It's like
um
not. It's like
what's it like
barely.
macrame type of
Yes,
thing?
yes, yes. It looks like
Like those
macrame.
plant holder type of things. She was wearing a
Yes,
plant holder cover up.
yes.
I think I can't remember what the New Jersey women said it, but it was like, "Can I see her asshole right
Yeah, I think Melissa was like, "Is that her asshole?" And she's talking to the concierge in the kitchen, trying to get like justification for why she took the room.
now?" Yeah.
And the one of the chefs is like, "My son is so considerate." And she's like, "Oh, that's your son?" So it's like his mom works there, she's there, and there's this 60-plus-year-old
She's
naked ass lady.
65.
Yes, naked ass lady standing there talking to her son. It's just so it was just a sight to be seen. It was just bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, like, even not saying anything like bad about Luann, but like Luann came out in a very like small bathing suit.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that comments would have been made about Luann if Ramona didn't show up in what she showed up in.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
um yeah, that was wild. I'm just like, what she knew it like I don't know if she had a strategy. I don't know if she's smart enough to have a strategy or if she really was just like I if it's maybe inferiority type of thing where it's like I'm meeting these women who also are on TV and are popular in their own right and I know I'm the oldest but like I need to look the best and like her version of looking the best right now is just like not wearing anything.
Yeah. I
Cuz
don't know
even the
what.
dress she wore to dinner is like was like lingerie.
Yeah, and they were saying that you could see through the top of her shirt, and she wasn't wearing a bra. So
Yeah,
I don't know what she was going for. She was going for something, obviously, but I don't know what it was. Whatever it was wasn't working.
and she was out in the ocean, right, with Luann. She's like, "I look
Yeah.
sexy, right? Like I look good, right?" And it's Luann's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
like please stop talking to me forever."
Yeah.
So Ramona just naked and taking bedrooms and calling people bitches until we get to dinner.
Yeah.
And at dinner, they kind of bring up like everything that had been happening and people were just being like nah Ramona like you're kind of being an asshole
Mhm.
and she's like well I'm the apologizer I apologize and Cynthia comes in and is just like let me talk to her because
Yeah.
things were escalating pretty quickly.
Yeah.
How do these people last together for the next 7 days with Ramona there?
I don't know. I was trying to think of like how I would handle something like this, and like I would be like, I gotta stay in my own place. Like I can't even be in this. Like that's
Hmm.
I feel like I would just need like a whew. So I give them credit for being able to do this and stay with this woman, because if this is what day one, I mean, this is what it's like on the plane, and they're staying there for what, 8 days.
Hmm.
I don't know. Well, it's great for us. Let's just say
Hmm.
that it's gonna be great for us.
Yeah. um do you think so Cynthia pulls her aside and is like you have to realize that what you're saying might not be like how people are taking it and you're coming across as very self-centered and tries to give Ramona the pep talk that many a cast members before her have tried to give her.
Hmm.
um Ramona goes back and apologizes. Do you think Cynthia realizes that like this is an act? She must know about Ramona, like
She must know. I, I think she was probably just trying to get everybody to chill because it was day one.
yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm like, okay, I don't, I think she was just trying to like make them coexist in peace.
Hmm. I loved that, like, on the ride over to dinner, it was who? Ramona, Teresa, and was it
Kenya in the
Kenya?
back.
And
Mhm.
and so, like, Ramona tries talking like, when's the sunset? And they're just, like, looking out the windows,
Yep.
like, there's birds chirping, no
Yep.
humans speaking.
Nope.
Um, Ramona was the centerpiece of this show, this
She really
episode.
was. This episode, yeah. I hope it's not like that for the rest of the time. I hope we get some more other women to shine because, like, we just can't do this with Ramona anymore. We can't. We have to let her go. So I just hope we get at least one episode with like everybody gets their shining moment.
Yeah.
And God help us if this is Ramona's shining moment because she was not shining.
No, I mean, for her, it's shining though. Like I mean,
Yeah.
she even said, like, my fans say that I need the best bedroom. Like, no, who are your fans? Put me in a room with your fans. Actually, don't,
She's
because
like,
I will not come out of that alive. Like,
no, she's very much delusional. Like the 45th president was delusional
I
of the
don't even
United States.
know who you're. This just
Oh,
I
Donald
I
Trump.
don't recognize that. I was trying to just be
Oh, sorry. I thought you
ignorant.
really were like, I
No,
don't
no, no,
know.
no. Trust me, I
That's why
know
I was
who
like, let me
45
save
was.
it.
I just
Let me
try to
save the
avoid it at all
name.
costs. No, well, I mean, like, they're like pals. So there's actually, and did I say this to you the last time we talked about Housewives, or maybe it was just to Leo? The two of them talk so similarly, Donald Trump
Mhm.
um and Ramona, that especially when I first started watching New York, I was like, oh my, this is the female Donald Trump. Like,
Yeah,
she
she really
talks, the
is.
cadence of her voice and the way she says things. I just had such a hard time, especially because, like, Donald Trump was much more prevalent, like, at the time when I was watching New York than he is now, that I was just like, I don't, this is hard for me. Like, this is very
Yeah,
hard for me.
yeah,
But yeah, no, they're one and the same.
they
I'm
are.
not actually, have they ever been seen in the same room? Maybe they are the same person.
Oh,
It's
that's a good
like the
question.
worst version of, like, a superhero is an
It really
anti-hero. I don't
yeah,
know, but um,
yeah.
did we get a preview of next week? I don't really remember. I might have turned it off before we got one.
We got like a flash forward to 5 days later
Oh,
where
that's a far time for an 8-day trip.
yeah, it was like everybody was fine, and then it flashed forward to 5 days later, they were at a dinner. Mauricio was there for some reason, which I was like,
Oh,
"Why is Mauricio on the ultimate girls trip?" But okay. I mean, shout out to Mauricio. We like him. He's a good house
didn't
husband.
he say that he, like, got the property for them or whatever?
I
Wasn't he
think
saying that
so.
at the beginning of the thing? So I wonder if
Yeah.
that's part of
Yeah,
it. I don't know.
probably. And someone was talking about how Kenya brought up how Ramona blackmailed Luann. And I don't know what this story is, and I don't know what they're alluding to because
Mhm.
from what I remember, I don't remember that happening. So, at least on camera. So, I'm here to hear what it is, but that's like where we left off, where it's like, oh, everybody's getting along. And then it's like, actually,
Yeah.
no. So we'll see how that plays out.
Ramona blackmailing Luann. I
Yeah.
feel like I remember something happening with, like, blackmail and Luann, but I don't remember Ramona being involved. But
I don't
I could also just
remember.
be making things up in my head right now. Like I've said, I'm very good at forgetting things that have happened in previous seasons. So, and that was a lot of seasons ago for me in terms of
Yeah.
Housewives. All right. Well, if you watch the 2 episodes after this, 1, I'm jealous of you for having that extra $5 to spend. 2, don't tell me what happens.
Yeah.
I'll probably get there. I might get there this weekend. I might not. It depends. But
I know I'm waffling on what to do here. If I want to shell it out or if I want to wait until they get released naturally. Um, so we'll see.
we will see. We are planning on being a consistent podcast for your Real Housewives needs. So, if you were listening and enjoyed this, you are lucky and getting us back. And if you didn't enjoy it, well, you and Ramona can go out to a nice dinner together because that's what I think of you. um, Katie, want to plug anything in terms of social media or maybe a Twitch or other things you might do in this great internet universe?
Sure, I would love to. So, you can find me on any social media platform, maybe not any, but on Instagram and Twitter on @RealSlimKatie. I tweet about reality TV. Sometimes I tweet about political views. So if you don't like that kind of thing, then I'm sorry in advance. Um, I don't really post on Instagram, so I'm not worth the follow, to be completely honest. And you can also find me on Twitch at Real Slim Katie with an underscore at the end because someone else stole Real Slim Katie from me. And there I just play some like little games. I know that's a weird thing to say, little games, but I just, I play. I'm not good at video games. I'm not like really a gamer, but it's fun to just like throw one on, play casually, and just chat with the chat. So come by there. That's really like where we get into a lot of conversations about Survivor, Big Brother, really anything and everything. It's a really good community. I haven't been there as much as I would like to be, but we're going to get back on track with that this week. So hope to see you there. Feel free to throw a follow.
So that I put a banner. I made it very quickly for you. That's your
Thank
Twitter
you.
one, right? But
Yes.
and we'll make a Twitch one for you for next time.
Oh, thank you. I'll put the Twitch one in my name here next time with the underscore.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then I have one of these little banners I was already made. Here we go.
Yay.
I just made my tweets public again, so sorry in advance for what you can see. I don't stream. I had to take a little break from all of the being on things and talking, but we're back in full force. If you're following me on Twitter, you got an education rant yesterday because I am sick of the current state of education. And if you want to talk to me about that, I'm your girl. I'm ready. I am ready and raring to go on that one. But we will hopefully, I don't want to like put words in other people's mouths, maybe get like end of season challenge podcast going. I know I wasn't there for the circle, but maybe we can like go back and do a recap or post watch. Like I know a bunch of people already watched it, but I'm hoping that we'll get to see more of us on podcasts coming up soon. So follow us on Silent Podcast for all of your reality TV. I almost said social media needs. I'm like, I know that's not the word I'm looking for, but there is something else. All right, so now I have to find the brand thing. Give me a second, guys. It's been a while since I've done this. Well, look, there's that. Where is it? We have a whole thing of like follow. Oh, here we are. Okay, so
Ooh,
look it. We got there.
Gorge.
We are on YouTube, Silent Podcast. We are on Twitter at Silent_podcast. And we are on Twitch, Silent Podcast as well. Follow us on all of those. The more followers we get, the better like those things are. And Katie could probably explain that better than I can. And so subscribe, all those good things, But we're here on behalf of Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. We will catch you at some point next week. It's a holiday. And so, there's whatever comes with holidays, but you'll hopefully almost definitely see us next week where we're talking more housewives. And we are promising you at some point in the very near future, maybe after Potomac ends, just a straight up Erica Jane, Beverly Hills. Like that's the only thing we're talking about that time because we have a lot of information, a lot of things to say, and we know that is a hot topic in the Real Housewives world right now, and we don't want to dilute that with anything else, especially because like we have Jen Shaw to keep us entertained. So
yes.
But we will catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in this time, and we will see you real soon. Enjoy the rest of your week, and sorry, we got a comment that distracted me. Such a bad sign up, but bye. We will catch you next time we are on this live podcast.
Bye.